Hello all, welcome back to my channel. Hope you all are doing well. So today we are going to discuss one of the most interesting topic in SQL, which is about JSON and SQL. And this is going to be very super interesting, guys. So please, before that, subscribe to this channel to get latest such updates. And this is going to be super useful. So stay tuned till the end of this video. And why this is going to be super useful, because in the business real time scenarios, right, what happens is that you might need to collaborate with the front end developers, and most of the times the working happens in the JSON data format, right? So it is very important to understand like how the data in the form of JSON is being handled in the SQL server, and this is going to be super useful, right? So without that, let's get started. Yeah, okay. So we will see the practical implementation as well, right? And yeah, let's get started. So, JSON and SQL Server introduction and basics, understanding JSON and its role in SQL Server. Yeah, and we are going to see the practical implementation as well. So, what is JSON? Why use it in SQL Server? So, JSON, the full form is JavaScript Object Notation, is a lightweight data format used for storing and exchanging data. SQL Server supports JSON for flexible and scalable data storage, right? So in JSON, you might have heard that in Python programming language also there comes a requirement to handle the JSON data, right? So this JSON kind of scenarios familiar, it is very common in all the programming languages, so we need to be very careful and mindful of handling it. So we will see the practical implementation also that will help to clear understand the concept, and that will be definitely useful from your interview point of perspective as well, right? So let's see what is the difference between JSON and XML kind of data, right? So in SQL Server, there might comes a scenario where we need to deal with the XML kind of data. So what is the difference? JSON is lightweight and easier to read. XML is more structured but verbose. JSON is commonly used in APIs, whereas XML is used in configuration files, right? Now let's see like how this JSON support in SQL Server 2016 plus. So SQL Server introduced JSON format in 2016 plus. JSON is stored as n varchar max, no separate JSON data type. SQL Server provides functions to query and modify the JSON data, right? So you must be very careful here, like what is the data type for the JSON part. So it is n varchar max, right? So there is no separate data type. So if you have to work with the JSON data, so the data type is only n varchar max, and SQL Server already has so many functions to support the JSON data, right? And it was introduced in SQL Server 2016 plus versions, right? So yeah, that is about the JSON data type. Now how SQL Server stores JSON as n varchar max. So JSON is stored as a text format in n varchar max. It can be queried and modified using built-in functions. No need for additional JSON specific data types, right? So just remember only one point here, that for the JSON we only have only one data type, which is n varchar max. There is no separate, right? Now we will see how to store JSON in SQL Server tables. So creating, inserting and best practices for storing JSON data in SQL Server. Okay. So this is going to be super useful and with the help of practical implementation. So why store JSON in SQL Server? Flexible and scalable, stores structured and semi-structured data, API friendly. JSON is widely used in web and API applications, eliminates the complex joins, stores the nested data in a single field, no need for extra tables, reduces normalization complexity, right? So these are some of the advantages, like why we need to store the JSON data, like it weighs much more over the other data types, right? So yeah, what are the best practices for storing JSON in SQL Server? So use nvarchar max for JSON storage. Validate JSON format before inserting using isJSON function. Index JSON fields if querying them frequently. Avoid deeply nested JSON for better performance, right? So you know the data type for the JSON is nvarchar max, and there is a function called isJSON function. So it returns two types, that is 1 and 0. So if it is a valid JSON, it will return 1, and if it is not a valid JSON, it returns 0. So before storing that, please make sure that your JSON data is in correct format, because sometimes the parsing issue comes into picture, right? We are not able to parse the data correctly, and what will happen that it is not going to give you the correct result. So these are some of the best practices. Please keep that in mind while working with the JSON data, right? So this is the summary. JSON can be stored in SQL Server as nvarchar max. Use is JSON to validate JSON before storing. Store structured data without complex relationships. Useful for APIs and semi-structured data processing. Okay. So I hope the concept is clear, and there is only one data type nvarchar max. So always validate your data using is JSON underscore function. Okay, right? So before jumping into the next segment, I just want to show you the practical implementation before jumping into my next segment. So this is some of the queries I have framed it. So I'll explain you very deeply here, and stay tuned, right? So this is very important. So I have one table which is known as employees table, right? And there are three columns. One is the ID column, which is of the integer type, and it is a primary key. It is going to be the unique identifier for this employees table, right? Then n name is there, n varchar 100. Details is storing the JSON data, so it the data type going to be n varchar max, right? So this is the way how we create the JSON data. So let me just first quickly execute this query. So you will see that employees, just a second, let me just drop the table first, so that let me just drop the table first, so that again we can create that. So this my table is dropped. Now there is no employees table. Let me just quickly create the table here. So if I'll execute it, so the commands completed successfully. So if I'll try to show you the table here, so when I just select star from employees, so right now I haven't inserted the data. So ID, name and details are the three column, and be mindful that details is the column containing the JSON data. The data type is nvarchar max, right? So let us quickly insert the data and insert into employee value. So ID and name is not my JSON data, only details. So this is a JSON object. Okay. So you might be familiar with the terms JSON object and JSON array. So you know how array is written within square brackets. Right now, this is a JSON object having key value pair. So what is the key? Key is my age, and the value of that key is 30. So just be mindful of the JSON terminology, so that whenever you are querying the data, it is going to be super useful, right? So insert into employee. Let me insert the data here just for the better explanation. So two rows affected. So let me again quickly query the data here. Select star from employees. Okay. When I just execute the data, you will see that here ID is 1 and 2, unique identifier, name. This is not the JSON data. Details column contains my JSON data. So what is the data type of JSON data? It is going to be nvarchar max. And this is an JSON object. Okay. Whenever you have heard JSON object and JSON array, these are going to be the two most familiar terms entire your JSON scenario data. Okay. So age is the key and 30 is the value. Department is the key and IT is the value. So we have department IT, department HR, age 30 and age 28. Okay. So this is the way how we have created the table and inserted the data. Let me go back to the presentation, and let me try to understand how to extract the data. So how to extract the data from JSON SQL Server. So we will learn how to extract single values and objects from JSON using SQL Server functions. So the two type of functions that we are going to use is, first we need to understand why extract data from JSON and SQL Server. So extracting JSON data allows structured queries, supports integration with API based applications, helps retrieve specific fields from semi-structured data. So might in your practical industrial requirements, there is a project where we have to work with JSON data, and where we have to collaborate with the .NET developers or the front end developers. So they mostly send the data in the form of JSON. So in that scenario, it is very important to understand how the SQL Server supports the JSON data type, right? So let's go ahead and try to understand what are the functions supported by SQL Server. So one function is JSON underscore value to extract single values. So JSON underscore value function extracts a single value from a JSON string. And what is the syntax? JSON underscore value expression and path. returns and varchar 4000 single scalar value. So you can see the syntax: select name, comma, JSON underscore value. So details is my expression, which means your column name, and dollar dot age. So within that details, we have the inner information, right? So we use the dollar. Okay, I will explain you what does the dollar means here. Dollar dot age as age from employees. Okay, so let me just try to execute this query, which I have already written. So please take awareness about the syntax. Okay, I'll explain is JSON later on. So JSON underscore value. Okay, so select name, JSON underscore value. Details is my column name, which has contained the data. And within that details, we have the inner information, age and department. So what is the way to extract that from the JSON object? So dollar dot age, we have to use the dollar symbol and the column which we want from employees. When I execute this query, okay, so what it will do, so you can see that name and age 30 and 28, it has given me the corresponding values. Okay, so let me just quickly try to show you the table here. Select star from employees, right? Okay, select star from employees. I'll execute this together to show you the data, how it works. So as you can see here, this the first one is my table containing the data: John Doe, Alice Smith, 3028. Okay, so this is my initial table, which has the details column as the JSON data: age 30, department IT, age 28, department HR. So just to access the values inside the details column, we have to use the dollar dot age. So John, Alice, and then age. Okay, so this is the way how the JSON underscore works, right? So let me try to understand how the dollar is the root operator, indicates that we are referring to the entire JSON document. Okay, so what is the importance of the dollar symbol here? So if you go down, so what does the dollar tells us? Okay, so it tells, the dollar tells us that, okay, what does the dollar tells us? It is a root operator. Okay, it is a root operator. And what does the root operator is meaning? That we are referring to the entire JSON document. Okay, referring to the entire JSON document. Okay, so it refers to the root of JSON object. Okay, root of JSON object. And see, dollar refers to the root of the JSON object, and dot h navigates to the h key in the JSON structure. In this entire JSON structure, dollar represents the root operator. Be very careful, it means the root operator, which means the to access the entire JSON object, we need the root operator, which is dollar symbol here. Okay, and dot age is just what it refers, the key inside that. Okay, h key, right? So I hope this is clear. Okay, there is no specific understanding. So the key takeaway is JSON underscore value, it extracts single values like numbers and strings, and dollar represents the root of the JSON object. Querying JSON fields work just like normal SQL operations. Okay, so we have to be careful. This is the way how we extract it. So I hope the scenario is clear. Let's move ahead. So please keep the syntax is mind. Yeah, that is very important. So this is the way JSON underscore value, how it attracts a single value, and this is the expression and the path. Okay, so I hope the scenario is clear, and just go ahead and practice with the variety of data sets, because practice makes a man perfect. So there comes a concept of nested JSONs as well. So go and practice with the JSON data. First start with the root level, understand the concept after watching this video, and then just go ahead and practice. Okay. So when you practice, then only the concepts becomes much more stronger. Okay. Now the another function is JSON underscore query to extract JSON objects or arrays. So JSON underscore query retrieves the JSON object or array from a JSON column. This is a syntax, expression, and path. Returns a valid JSON object or array. So example, select name JSON underscore query as employee details from employees. Okay. So this is the dollar symbol here. Let me just go ahead and run this query. Okay. So what it is going to return to us. So when I'll execute it, so you can see that it returns the entire JSON object or a valid JSON. Okay. So if I want details and the dollar symbol here, so it just go ahead and gives us the entire JSON object. If the within this JSON you could have the square brackets as well, so it is going to give you the arrays. So this is a JSON object. JSON arrays is your square brackets. Okay. So this the dollar symbol holds that much importance. And if you want to just extract only specific thing, so this is the dollar dot h, which is used with JSON underscore value. Okay. So I hope the JSON underscore value and JSON underscore query is clear from your end. Okay. So this is very important to understand. Yeah. And okay, let's move ahead and see what lies next in our thing. So be mindful of the syntax. And okay, the other thing is filtering JSON data in SQL query. So suppose in your SQL statements, right, you used where clause. Okay, if simple, I am just giving you select star from employees where department is equal to IT. So if you want to fetch a particular condition, like particular scenario, suppose I have a department, and in that department we have IT, HR, and other departments as well. So if what if I just want to see the data of the employees or the data for the HR department or for the IT department? So how are you going to fetch that? Using filtering employees by department, select name JSON underscore value. So first is your details column, that is your expression, and the path dollar dot department as department from employees where JSON underscore value, expression, and path is equal to IT. Okay. So let me just quickly go ahead and execute this query. So we'll see how the functionality works. Sorry, the filtering part. Okay. So you can see that I have written this query. Let me execute it. So you can see that right now John Doe IT. Okay. So what I have done is details. In the details column, what is the value? Department. Okay. First we have extracted age, now department, from where details are equal to IT. Okay. So if I have to specify like which department, is it HR department, is it IT department, then that proves very helpful here. Okay. If I replace the IT with the HR here, okay, let me do with HR. Okay. Then it is going to show me the HR department details. Okay. So Alice Smith. Okay. So Alice Smith was of my department HR. So his value come. Uh, Initially department was IT. So John Doe belongs to department IT, having age 30. So this is the way you can provide the filtering conditions with the JSON values and see how it works, right? So that is very normal to your SQL queries operations, right? So I hope the scenario is clear. So go ahead and practice with a variety of data sets here. So, okay, last point in this entire tutorial. So use JSON underscore value to extract a single value, which is your scalar value. JSON underscore query to extract JSON objects and arrays. You can filter JSON data using SQL conditions. Okay, so be mindful of the syntax, be mindful how we are using, and just go ahead and practice with a variety of data sets available, and then try to understand how these JSON function works. So the best advice from my end would be just go ahead, study this, try to parse the JSON, okay, starting with the simplest one, and then you come across along complex ones, so then you will understand how these functions supports us, right? So I hope the tutorial of today is very much clear. Okay. So thank you all for your for this tutorial. And yeah, thank you all so much. Take care. Bye bye. Good.